Hello. I'm going to start off and say that today's going to be a little different with this podcast. We had some technical difficulties going on with the video quality of Matt's camera. We initially recorded everything all the way through. For some reason, comes up as kind of grainy and a little what's the thing? Kind of off, not in sync with his voice. So you will see throughout this podcast that there's an image of Matt on that side. You'll still be able to hear his audio. You'll still be able to hear me and see me, but his image is going to be static. So today, if you don't want to watch the video, which I completely understand, not super interactive this week, just listen to the audio, stick it in your ear pods, and, don't watch the video. So thank you for listening to episode 30. Jump right in. Welcome back to the Creative Process Podcast with myself, Jared Klein. You will see in the title that it is episode 30. So if you were one of the early listeners of last week's episode was episode 30, but it had to get taken down. That's all I'm going to say about it. It had to get taken down. So today we have Matt on for episode 30 again, which awesome. We have Matt on. I've been wanting to have Matt on for a little bit here now, so this is something I've been looking forward to, and I hope Matt's excited as well. Matt, how are you? How are you doing today?
I'm great. It's been a great MLK day, so I'm excited to be here and talk some creative shop with you.
Yeah, for sure. I guess you're freelance, right? So you probably didn't have to worry about having off or anything today, did you?
It's very minimal work for me today. Just a couple of things I had to do, but nothing too crazy.
Right. Yeah. It was weird. So in Appleton, where I live, my coworkers, we still had work. We still came into work, but their kids didn't have school, but the teachers had to go in. That was interesting. I thought that was pretty interesting.
Yeah.
That's never been a thing. Even when I was in school, we always went to school on MLK Day, and we did presentations and stuff and learned about it and everything, and kind of used the day as a informative, type of situation. But we've never been off of school or off of work before. I've never heard of that before. That was interesting hearing about that. That was very interesting.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, so I guess let's just kind of jump into who you are, who Matt Desmond is. If you want to give people your introduction, you can go as deep or as shallow as you want, and then we can kind of get into what we have on the docket today. That sound all right?
Sounds great. So my name is Matt Desmond. I'm a sports video producer that specializes in the sports field. So I've been working for, on a team and league side for the last 10 years, and just last year I went into freelancing. And I'm also the founder of the Sports Creative Community, which is a nonprofit really geared towards creatives in the sports industry. So it's a collaborative of both of my work and also doing something to give back to the community. So two of my passions are really just mixed together there.
Awesome. Yeah, that sounds awesome. That is one thing that I your oh geez, what the hell? Sports Creative Community. Why, you literally just said it and I was lost my brain. That's why it was something super interesting about you that I wanted to have you on the podcast, because it's something that I've been seeing recently, and it looked what was the what's the label of SCC? What was it was a nonprofit. What was the official label that was the company?
We're a 501c6 nonprofit. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So it was very interesting. When that kind of came out, and that kind of caught my attention. I was like, oh, okay, this guy means business about this. It's very interesting. So I looked a little bit, and what you're doing over there is awesome. I commend you for everything that you're doing over there. But I want to ask, where did this kind of, this whole organization kind of stem from? What made you want to do it and everything like that?
Yeah. So early on in my career, I would attend conventions or conferences, and I would get to meet a handful of creatives, but there was always conferences that had maybe 500 plus people there, and there's no way that you're going to be able to meet all those people in selected amount of days that conference runs.
Hmm.
So I thought it was a big missed opportunity for networking. So I wanted to create something that was 365, 24/7, business model so that creators always had an outlet. They always had someone to talk to, whether it was needing a mentor, even just fielding a question on something they were stuck on in a project. And honestly, networking is one of the biggest assets in this industry. If you can network properly, you can do very well in your career. And I really wanted to preach that to people in our industry is like all working towards the same goal, uh, being the best creators that we can. Let's just really build this community up and do it the right way, and let's help each other out in the process. So we have an amazing community based on Slack, and it's been a great migrator for people to get jobs and for hiring managers to post jobs there. So it really helps both hiring manager and the job seekers. So started back in 2018. That's when we kind of had the idea. Just in last July, we went into the nonprofit business model. So we've kind of built, up our community over the last 5 years. We're almost up to 7,000 members worldwide. So it's just a great community, and I think one of the beauty of sports is it's universal, it's worldwide, and I think creatives need to be connected worldwide as well. So it's really fun to see all of that kind of come together.
Hell yeah, it's fantastic. It's like it's one thing to see it, but then it's another thing to kind of get the point of view of someone setting this up, and the rationale behind everything, and wanting to get this whole sports community together, sports creative community together, and like it's like it's one thing to see it, but it's another thing to hear the explanation. That was awesome listening to that, and I seeing it personally, I was like, where has this been? Like like, I mean, we all have group chats and everything. We all have like those group chats with the close friends and close acquaintances that we have within the community. But it's like, when's this gonna come? Like, when is the whole atmosphere of helping each other succeed gonna come to the forefront? And
Mm-hmm.
part of it is like that's part of why I created this podcast. So like it was how can I supply people with the information that I didn't get when I was coming up and learning with what I wanted to do. So it's like, how can I, find a tool or do something to supply information and be, a source of information that I didn't have. And that's probably what you were like as well when you decided to, create this thing. Like, you're wondering why not connect everyone to everyone, and why not have this huge community? So yeah, I commend you for this. It's awesome. It's fantastic what you're doing. I'm just gonna give you a little shout out before we get into my next question here. I'm down below for the listeners. You'll see all the links down below. Not only for Matt's personal, but you'll see everything for the sports creative community will be down below. So if you're interested, just based off of how he described it and everything, if you're interested, go down below, check it all out. But Matt, moving on, within this whole journey and everything, I guess what was, maybe this wasn't really on the list, but I want to ask this. What's kind of like the best thing that's happened so far within this whole community of, building this from the ground up and meeting all these people and everything like that? What's kind of been the highlight so far?
Yeah, I just think it's the authenticity of just people's stories. And the main reason this was created was to help one another out. I remember when I first started in this industry, and I would have craved to have something like this when I was first entering the job field. We've had meetups over the last year and before COVID, before we were nonprofits, but now that we're a nonprofit, we have meetups, to try to do at least 8 to 10 a year, depending on, how much we're able to fit in the calendar year. But this past year, been able to meet a lot of creatives, in person, and really been blessed to do that just with, COVID, really sidelining us for a while. So getting back out there, hearing people's stories, hearing, their needs and some of the struggles they have, and finding resources to help them out. But I think some of the biggest success stories is hearing people say, "Hey, I wouldn't be in the sports creative industry if it wasn't for the sports creative community and the Slack channel and the opportunities it's presented them with." So, just to be able to give back and really just to give the importance to people, say, "Hey, like once you go through a job in sports, you always want to be able to provide a pathway for someone else."
Mm-hmm.
So, if the Slack community was able to open some doors for them, I want them to view that in a sense where, hey, if I'm able to do that for someone else, this is my opportunity to do so. So I want it to be, generational because as we grow older, we need to open up the doors for the people below us and just entering the job field from high school going into college, college going into the job field. So really just have to be open-minded about the opportunities that lie ahead because you never know who might be listening or who might be looking up to you. So you always have to really represent yourself and just the community in the best sense forward.
Right. That's fantastic. Yeah. I mean, looking back on, looking back to where, like, when I was first starting, when I was like searching for something, to kind of latch onto community wise, there wasn't really anything. I don't know about your experience. Like when you first started, was that like a main thing that you were trying to get into, or was it like just your coworkers around you?
Yeah, so when I started, I was working in college athletics, and when you work in college athletics, you're usually within a small team.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, one of my biggest thing was I wanted to get critiques and feedback on my work, but I wanted to make a new bubble, really just go outside of my comfort zone and talk to new people and hear new vantage points. And I think as a creative, you only grow if you receive as many opinions and feedback on your work because you might think you might know the greatest way to do it, but that's what I love about collaborating with different creatives. You get to see different ways people do things, and it really just grows your mindset and it allows you to be a better creative at the end of the day. So for me, I was just really craving to collaborate with other creatives out there and really just see where this could go. So when I first started out, there was conferences, but I think it was still on the brink of opening up to where people were uplifting each other and really just being a resource for each other. The
Mm-hmm.
idea was there, but it really never translated into anything other than that. So I really wanted to make something of that and really formalize it.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Yeah. I mean, like, I feel like that's just how we look at, most of the things in our life, let alone like our career path. It's like, okay, I experienced X. How can I help someone? Well, I guess when it comes to like adversity, mainly, that's how I think of this. It's like you
Mm-hmm.
go through a problem, you go through something that I don't want to say successfully because successful isn't always the word you want to use when you go through a struggle or go through a hard point in your life. But then once you go through that, you always are looking back, you always are figuring out how to help others that are going through that same thing. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, I think that's like an innate, like, at least in myself, and I can tell in you as well, like it's probably like an innate feeling to want to help others and want to make sure you can supply information that you didn't get when you were going through X, Y, or Z, So, I don't know, this whole aspect of something, like, especially of the sports community, since we're on that, just wasn't there when I started. And
Mm-hmm.
like, it was like grasping at straws to try to find, someone that would like want, let alone like answer my questions, but also want to help me. It was that's how it was. And I had a conversation with Zach. For some reason I can't remember his last name, but he goes by Zach Create. He was on the podcast. Um, and we talked about this as well, but in a different community. It was like, but it was the same thing in sports when I started. It was like no one wanted to share anything. It was like dog eat dog. You didn't want to, if you gave information to someone, it was like you were giving them all your secrets, and it was, completely different than what it is now. Like, people
Mm-hmm.
realize that, at least I think, people realize, and designers within this realize, that this is a super competitive industry, and, the best are going to get what they deserve. So why not help, I don't know, that was kind of a weird way of putting it, but why not try to help each other become the best? Why not try to help each other become the best designers that they can be? So then we can all aim to succeed in what we want to succeed in. That's I don't know why some people want to just hold things in and keep things to themselves, and maybe it's because they feel like people have it out for them, and if they do feel that way, I'm sorry you feel that way, because that, at least, granted, who am I to say, honestly, but at least in my experience, I never think that people have it out for me. So maybe I'm just lucky I don't think that way, but I mean, who am I to kind of be shallow-minded there? But yeah, I don't know. It's always been it was a frustrating thing until like the past like 2 or 3 years, really. Just being able to gather, like-minded people, and people being able to, wanting to help, not being able to, but wanting to help people improve. And I mean, I talked about this a couple episodes ago, and I even talk about this with my friends now at work. It's like, I'm 24. Who am I to be like this 15-year-old that wants to do the same thing I'm doing? Who am I to hold that information and my experience from them when they ask me a question? It's kind of like when your teachers say no, they're like, what was like, there's no such thing as a dumb question or something like that. It's like they're just wanting to share their experience and share their knowledge with someone that's asking the question. There's no problem in asking questions. So like, I guess to kind of form this into like a conversation, what's been your experience when people like ask you questions? Like, how do you kind of take that? Because that's been something that has been a conversation on here a couple times. It's like, how do you take that question and aim to, help the person asking?
Yeah, it's a combination of things. So, I've been in this industry for over a decade now, and I always look at my past experiences, and I'm not gonna look back at my work experience and say, I executed everything the right way the first time, because no one's perfect.
Right.
It's a trial and error process. You learn from your mistakes, and you're able to execute those, as you go. So you got the technical side, you got the skills that you want to teach someone. It's also the human aspects I think we forget about as well. It's just being a loyal coworker, being that resource, because working in sports, you're working long hours. So if you can't be a decent human being, and really just be a trustworthy person, that's going to be an issue. So you really just need to make sure that the person that you're mentoring is in the right mindset, because if they don't have the correct mindset, it's really hard to give them those foundational, pieces of advice to move forward if they're not thinking correctly. So you want to make sure that they're going into an environment and they're able to help others out, because if they're just kind of closed-minded and really just want to, accomplish what they might think is important, that's not going to help out the team. So you got to make sure that you're preparing that person to be ready to work in sports, because at the end of the day, there's so many roles that go into, being a creative, and you could either work in a marketing department, you could work in, digital, but you also have to service a lot of other, departments under that team's umbrella. So you really just got to prepare them for the mindset of working in sports, because a lot of stuff can be taught, and a lot of people in the creative industry are self-taught in whatever they specialize in. It's the small skills that sometimes are maybe the hardest to grasp, and I think that's really important to educate people, just to be open-minded, and you're here to really help out the team and the brand, and with that you're going to grow as well.
So, question about networking, since that's like a huge thing in this whole conversation of like, establishing connections and relationships and stuff like that. When it came to actually, I just thought of a question while I was going to ask a question. When it comes to networking, is experience and like, so like as you get jobs, right? As you get jobs, or as you kind of go through your career cycle, right? You have a couple jobs, you're going to naturally gain connections, right? Which I guess on the flip side, right? We have like this Twitter, right? We have Twitter, we have group chats, we have Slack in your example. We have different group chats where we can meet new people that way, right? There's so many different ways to meet new people. Do you think getting connections now is dependent on, like your job, or like, I guess I formed that question weirdly, and that's not how I wanted to say. I'm kind of struggling saying this question. When it comes to getting connections, is it important to establish a connection in person before digital, or do you think having like a connection online through Twitter or something is like as influential? Or I guess, yeah, like in your career, was it easier for you to establish connections in person or over a digital space? That's the question I was picking at it. I was trying to get there.
It's all good. It all came together.
Yes, it
did. I think right now we live in such a digital age, and I really think that grew into fruition. Over COVID, we were so confined to our own corridors, and we're really just craving any social, conversation that we could get. Mm-hmm. So I think prior to COVID, it was a mixture of both. You would see physical networking, maybe sometimes virtual. For me, I think it kind of migrated off Twitter. I really enjoyed what was the SMS sports community on Twitter. I enjoyed following that. And then I went along and created the Slack channel with the sports creative community. But for someone just starting out networking, sometimes people don't have the opportunity to meet that person in person. Maybe they might not be geographically located. That would put them in a position to meet that person. Mm-hmm. I think it's a lot easier to start the conversations in a virtual capacity. And it doesn't matter if you're an intern, not even in sports, just looking to get into sports. It doesn't matter who you are. It just matters about how you approach the subject, and just be, yourself, be nice, and be open to learning so much about the person that you're going to be having that conversation with, because you never know where that conversation is going to lead. But all you have to do is really make sure that, you're being respectful of their time, because they're giving back and want to help you out. So, have as many questions as you can ready. But also, you don't want to be too long, because, a lot of people in sports are busy. But, if you can get some time to learn about different facets of the industry, I think it's really beneficial as you grow in your career, because you might enter the field thinking you might want to be a graphic designer, but at the end of the day, you might want to be in marketing. So I think it's really important to have a broad scope of people you want to network with, because you never know who you might cross paths with one day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's something that I'm sort of going through now, like skill wise with my job. I work in minor league baseball, so it's a very small team, right? It's me and a senior designer. Those are the only two designers on staff, and then we also do the photography. We also do, well, now we do the video work, but we usually have a person that does the video work and all that stuff, but we're in the process of getting a new hire in, so we're doing that now. So it's like a plethora of different skills that I'm being able to kind of either dip my toes in or establish that skill, being able to trust myself when it comes to that stuff. So when you touched on like being multifaceted and being able to like when you ask different people different questions and want to learn different kinds of things and that type of stuff, like I definitely connect with that. And that's especially like in my young career. This is like my first big boy full-time job. I got hired last January, so actually it was a year 6 days ago. So in this whole process, like I totally relate to what you just said. It's like trying to learn as much as you can, trying to take in as much as you can. And it is honestly like it's refreshing, because you're able to understand different sides of the creative industry as well. I felt in some points being a little tunnel visioned into this is the graphic design world, this is the static imagery world, and and then now being able to experience new things, being able to dive into new things. Like I never did sports photography before this, and dove into it last April, and honestly, it's one of my favorite things I've ever done. So it's like you never really know what you're gonna come out of it, and I mean I see like. Yes, I love graphic design, but I could definitely see my career shifting into being a photographer or being in a position in marketing or, something like that. It all interests me now. It's like I never would have expected it unless I would have, been able to have these experiences and ask questions to people that know more about things than I know,
Mm-hmm.
So I guess when it comes to your sports experience, how long has it been since you've worked in sports? I mean, you work freelance, but I guess full time, like being employed in sports.
Yeah, full time. So it's been about a year now since I've been removed full time from sports. So I've been freelancing for the last year and been working full time in sports for probably the last decade.
Okay. So what was like the main thing you got out of being employed within sports? I guess it's kind of a loaded question. There's probably a lot of things, but
Yeah, I mean, you learn every year you're in sports, but just the growth as a professional. Each year you look at your work, but you
Mhm.
also look at the trajectory of you as a professional. We all start with job titles and all these requirements on responsibilities that you're assigned to do, but you look at it in a different sense because as a content creator, you're creating a lot. As you kind of climb the ladder into a more managerial role, you learn how to lead people. So there's that sense. You learn how to be more professional and lead a team.
Mhm.
On the other side of things, for me, I'm a video producer, so I saw myself growing as a storyteller on really how to make a compelling story. And sometimes might work with minimal assets and resources. How do you think outside the box to really captivate an audience? So for me, I saw my career really, going down into more of the long form features, but I also realized that I really like the high energy pieces as well. So that's what also it maybe led to me wanting to kind of do my own venture as a sports freelancer, just kind of have the best of both worlds. But yeah, you learn a lot in sports. You meet a lot of great people. So I think you're going to have friendships from all over the country because in sports, you're probably not going to stay at one job for your entire career.
Mhm.
So you get to learn about new people, really get to embrace the community as well that you are able to live in for a while, and also just enjoy the places you visit. There's a lot of amazing cities out there, and I wouldn't have been to a lot of these cities if it wasn't for working in the sports industry.
Mhm. What was one thing throughout your sports career that like you hated, but you'll take into your career into the future and be like, I'm glad I experienced that?
Yeah, I wouldn't be like I'm glad I experienced that. I think it's still an issue that we're going through right now, but it's just the fundamental stages of promotions and salary aspirations for people working in sports. I would like to see that improved across the board. I want to see sports be more diverse. Working in sports, in my 10 years working, it was very limited that I would work with, minorities, and I think that's it's getting a little bit better now, but I would love to see that definitely improved across the board. So just equal pay, just equality, and I think that's getting a little better. But I think there's a lot that needs to be worked on in the sports industry that sometimes is a little bit out of reach for a creative, but I think we can all play a part in improving it each day.
I do think now that like the digital focus, especially when it comes to collegiate sports, now that like with the players and everything, like they are starting to get compensated and openly compensated, right? It's not a thing people shy away from now. So I hope that I mean, granted, I haven't worked in collegiate sports, but I mean, like you have talked with people that have, and that's a pretty common thing that's being said. It's like, people just aren't getting compensated how they should be getting compensated. And I mean, now I hope that's kind of transitioning now with like I said, the increased importance in a digital presence and needing creative people to display your brand in different ways rather than, posting it on a billboard within the city that you're in. It's promotion and marketing and everything is, it more focus is being put digital, and you need people, like us to help your organization and help your team or help your school or whatever the situation is to be able to do that. And in all honesty, like, I mean, I'm, granted I'm a year into my career, like into my full-time career. So it's kind of a little bit weird to say this, but well, not really say this, but I mean, my end goal is like freelance full-time. And it's like, I know right now that I am, how can I put this without sounding like an asshole? I know right now that, I mean, I know the grind, and I know like you have to start somewhere, right? So I respect what I'm getting paid right now. Would I like to get paid more? Of course I would like to get paid more. Everyone would like to get paid more. But in a sense, like, I mean, there's probably going to be a point where I see, at least talking with, friends and stuff like that, there's probably going to be a point where I see no further upside, and that's going to call on a change of career or a change in career path. And like I said, one of my goals is freelance. So it's like, I am thankful for the profession, though. I'm thankful for the profession because there are different ways to go within this profession. Like yourself, you're full-time for 10 years, working in the industry for 10 years, and you're like, hey, I want to go freelance because now I've gained all this experience and I can still make a justifiable living. Well, I don't want to say justifiable. I mean, I don't want to point fingers or throw out things, but you're probably making a better living than what you would be making if you were full-time still, or else you wouldn't have switched. So it's like, there's different avenues we can go as creatives and as, designers or as producers and as, I mean, I'll just say creatives. That's an overarching word, but there's different avenues that we can go, thankfully, within our career to where other career paths can't do that. So it's like, I'm very grateful for what we do and very grateful for what I do and the freedom of, if I want to go do freelance, I can, muster it up and take and give it a try. And then I can always come back, to where, I mean, I don't know many, like at least what my wife is doing, what my parents are doing. I mean, what my dad's doing, he's a programmer, so he could do that freelance technically, but like, my mom and my wife are both in the medical field, and you can't do that freelance. So it's like, there's a lot of things that people could be in positions where they don't really like where they're being, but they can't, they don't really have a way out until, let's say, their contract runs up or, X, Y, or Z happens. And yeah, I don't know. I kind of went on a rant there, but yeah, I guess I'm just grateful for what we do. Yes, there is a downside to compensation, but yeah, there's a way that, people have proven that you can get out of that, situation where you're being underappreciated and get paid more, to be honest.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't want to put words in people's mouth, but I mean, people wouldn't be doing freelance if they were getting paid chunk change. I'll be honest. So it's like, people got to make a living. But yeah, I mean, I really like the whole connotation of this podcast. Like, we're talking a lot about community, we're talking a lot about network. I guess if you could give an overarching kind of, I don't want to say like thesis, but like, overarching kind of idea of community within the sports industry. What would you kind of like, what's most important about that? Like, within what we do, like, why do you see community as such an important aspect of everything?
Yeah, well, I think it's bigger than just our jobs. People, I really want to embrace the people that even working in sports is an amazing job to have, but at the end of the day, we're all human. So I think what I really want to embrace is having a strong core of a community that really enjoys, working in sports. But I always want to stress, just the self-care that you really need to take in sports because some, myself included, sometimes we get caught up in our work, and I really want to learn from my experiences and help people out. Just to say, hey, like what you do is important, but taking care of yourself is 10 times more important. So even though we work long hours, you really need to make sure that you're taking care of yourself mentally and physically, because there's a lot of times when we'll get just caught up in a project, and we get to take care of ourselves. And even as a freelancer, going through this past year, it was a new venture for me. So it wasn't a script written for me that I just followed the directions. It was kind of creating my own path. So there was things that maybe I should have done differently, but it's just it's a learning experience. So having a community, a lot of the people I connect with are amazing friends. It's not because of the job title they have or the team they work for. It's the type of person that they are that I'm attracted to wanting to hang out with that person. I'm really just getting to know them because
Mm-hmm.
I think we all have our paths and our reasons of wanting to work in sports. But I love the passion, and I think that's really what aligns me with our community. Is everyone has a passion for working in sports or just putting out something visually compelling. Because for me, I was a former athlete, but you don't see me in a professional sports league right now. So this was my avenue to still being associated with sports,
Mm-hmm.
but in a creative capacity. So everyone has a story, and everyone in this community is doing something amazing out there. So my job is really just to uplift those and really just spread some light to really recognize them because there's a lot of people out there that maybe aren't getting that recognition, and I just want to show them that they are appreciated and their work does mean a lot. So a lot of it's just building up confidence in the community as well because imposter syndrome is such a real thing. I suffered through it, and it's just really important to have people you can lean on to help you through some things because like-minded individuals, sometimes you're going to experience a lot of the same things. So community is just.
Oh, sorry, you kind of legged out. What did you say? Community is.
I was saying community is just the heart of it all. It's really what brings everyone together.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. Well, Matt, I mean, it's been awesome having you on. It sucks that we had to do episode 30 twice. Well, yeah, I had to have episode 30 twice, but I think this kind of what? What am I saying? This episode 30, this redoing of episode 30 was amazing. It was awesome having you on. It was awesome having you, speak about, what you do and also the motive behind what you do and basically kind of just like give like your mission on why sports creative community is something you care about and how you view everything when it comes to community and connecting and the importance of all that. So that was fantastic. We've kind of scratched the surface, I feel like, a little bit on this podcast about this topic. And I wanted to have you on to kind of hit it home and really showcase the importance of it. And I think you did an awesome job, and I can't commend you enough. I really appreciate it, man.
Oh, thank you, Jared. I really appreciate it. And I think one of the biggest things is the sports creative community isn't possible just with the creatives out there. I think their contributions on a day-to-day basis makes it what it is. It's an organic community. We don't do any paid advertising or anything. It's more so just to listen to the thoughts and concerns out there of things that can be improved in the community and how we can be a resource for that. So it's putting creators at the forefront and really helping them succeed in their careers. So really just want to shout all the creators out there because they're putting a lot of work out there, and we just want to do everything we can to support them.
Hell yeah. Love that, man. All right. Well, I mentioned this a little bit in the podcast before, but go down below, check out Matt's links, check out Sports Creative Community's links, go into the Slack channel and everything like that. You know, it's awesome. Go there. I'm gonna go there after this. I'm gonna get into that Slack. I haven't downloaded Slack in so long. I haven't used Slack in forever, so it's gonna be a little growing.
It's a good opportunity to do so.
Yeah. But yeah, go down below, check it all out. You've heard Matt talk about it. You've heard us talk about the importance of community and developing, you know, relationships within this. And if you're feeling a little, you know, if you feel like you're alone and you're kind of hesitant to kind of reach out to this, do this. We preach about, you know, the importance of asking questions and reaching out to people and not being afraid of that. I know that's an internal thing. I can sit here and say don't be afraid, but it's something that you have to do inside, that you have to make sure that you're comfortable doing it. But after you're comfortable doing it, do it. All right? Go do it. Get connected to people. You'll meet people here in this community that want to help you, that want to see you grow, that are going to root for you. All right? Don't be afraid of that. But with that, it's been episode 30. Thank you for listening today, and make sure you tell someone that you love them. All right, we will see you next time.